What comes into the mind of all of us when we think of 100% pure coconut oil? Or what we usually ask for at any general or departmental store when we want to buy coconut oil? Well, without a doubt, it's Parachute 100% pure coconut oil from Marico. Today in India, coconut oil has become a synonymous of Parachute, and its blue rounded bottles have been a part of our lives since decades now, and even after so many years and countless other coconut oil players in the Indian market, Parachute has been an undisputed king with a whooping share of more than 55% in the Indian coconut oil market, and it contributes to more than 40% of the total revenue to its parent company Marico. So it would be quite accurate to say that today Marico has created a clear-cut monopoly in the Indian coconut oil segment with Parachute solely on the basis of its flawless brand positioning as well as the quality and the purity of the coconut oil that has a firm footing not only in the Indian market but also in the international market, covering countries like Bangladesh, Egypt and Myanmar. But likewise we say, every successful empire is built on the foundation of a ferocious war fought in the past. So this monopoly to Parachute wasn't served in a silver spoon. It actually had to confront one of the most dominating player of the Indian FMCG sector, Hindustan Unilever, back then in 1990s during a raging brand war that was fought between these two companies in order to win the coconut oil market of India. So in this video, we are going to see what exactly raised such a fearsome brand war between Hindustan Unilever and Marico over coconut oil in the early 1990s, and how Marico's Parachute got to emerge as the survivor of that epic brand war by knocking down the most powerful FMCG player of the Indian market, Hindustan Unilever. So stay tuned with me as we go through that amazing brand war, and if you are new to this channel, make sure to hit that bell icon so you can get notified about all the interesting and informative content being posted on this channel. So this brand war had basically two notable players, or two fearsome warriors who led the battle from front, with both having one common weapon to fight with, and that weapon was coconut oil. So the first warrior was Mariwala, who is the chairman and founder of Marico, and the second warrior was Kaki Dadi Seth, who was the chairman of Hindustan Unilever from 1996 to 2000. Now, for the onset of this story, we actually have to go back to 1974 when Parachute was founded under the leadership of Mariwala. And back then, Parachute coconut oil was the only branded as well as the purest coconut oil available to the Indian masses. So in a span of no time, Parachute became one of the customers' most loved brand, and it was a huge success for Mariwala. And then in 1990, when Marico was officially founded, then Parachute was sold as a flagship brand under Marico alongside Saffola. But that's when the game of HUL came into the play, which was about to turn all the odds against Marico and Mariwala. Now, since its entry into the Indian market in 1931, Hindustan Unilever (HUL) has always been the most dominating player in the Indian FMCG market. And 1980s and the 1990s was the time when HUL was diversifying its product portfolio by acquiring some major brands that already had a strong reputation in the eyes of general public. And some of the brands that HUL acquired during the 1980s and 1990s were Brooke Bond, Quality Walls, Ponds and Lakme. But one of its major acquisitions held in 1993 when it acquired Tata Oil Miles Company. Now there goes a very interesting story behind this acquisition. Now the sole purpose behind this acquisition was that although Tata Oil Miles Company was a soap manufacturer, but it had a coconut oil in its product portfolio by the name Tata Nihar Coconut Oil. And since the coconut oil market was on boom during that period in India, acquiring Tata Oil Miles Company opened the door for HUL to the lucrative and growing coconut oil market. So this was by far the beginning point of the ferocious brand war that was about to happen between a comparatively small but established company like Marico with Parachute coconut oil in its product portfolio and the biggest and the most dominating FMCG player, Hindustan Unilever, with Nihar coconut oil. So at the time of this acquisition, Parachute coconut oil was having a 48% share in the Indian coconut oil market, since it was operating for more than 2 decades. And on the other hand, Hindustan Unilever's Nihar coconut oil was only having a 7% share. But on the face of huge resource pool and the funds that HUL had as the most dominating FMCG player in the Indian sector, it was clear to all the market players, including Mariwala, that now it is going to be a tough competition for Marico. Now this competition between Hindustan Unilever and Marico soon escalated to a battle with the arrival of the second warrior, Mr. Keki Dadi Seth, who was appointed as the chairman of HUL in the year 1996. Now this man was quite famous for having a tactical mindset when it comes to planning and executing acquisition. And Dadi Seth's strategy in order to strengthen the position of HUL in the Indian market was to acquire major FMCG companies. And the very prime company that was on the list of Dadi Seth was none other than Marico, because it was quite clear that if somehow HUL succeeded in acquiring Marico, then they would eventually win this battle over the Indian coconut oil market. Now Dadi Seth's strategy in order to surpass Marico in the Indian coconut oil market was quite simple: to pressurize Marico in the market and then acquire them by offering them a handsome amount as the takeover price. And if we try to think over it in very generalized terms, then it wouldn't have been to any sort of amazement for anyone had Mariwala agreed to sold Marico to Hindustan Unilever during that time. Because a small company like Marico was nowhere in a position to give a competitive fight to a big company like Hindustan Unilever, neither on financial grounds nor on any other aspect. And with this opinion, Hindustan Unilever, under the leadership of Mr. Keki Dadi Seth, began the onslaught of Marico in the market. And the very first step they took was by offering 35% discount to the retailers for Nihar coconut oil, as against the 10% discount that was offered by Marico to the retailers for Parachute coconut oil. And the next shock came to Marico when Hindustan Unilever leveraged their advertisement budget for Nihar coconut oil by almost 2 times the budget that was used by Marico for the advertisement of Parachute coconut oil. And as the market was able to sense that things weren't going out in the favor of Parachute and Marico, investors started losing their interest in the long-term aspirations of Marico and Parachute. Because during that time, Parachute used to contribute more than 61% to the total revenue of its parent company Marico. And now, since the survival of Parachute was on the stake in the ruthless hands of Mr. Keki Dadi Seth, investors squeezing out their money from Marico out of fear was quite obvious. And in a matter of few days, Marico's chart was all red, with its share prices falling drastically. Now, if you are a business enthusiast, you might have came across various case studies wherein a big company had used its dominance to pressurize a small company in order to set a stage for acquisition. What I meant by saying is that such events keep happening in the business world every now and then. But what I'm going to share with you all now is like a 1 in 10,000 times happening event. Now the worst phase of this brand war got emerged when one fine day Mr. Mariwala received a threat call from one of the personals working in Hindustan Unilever itself. And guess who was that man behind the threat call? Well, it was none other than Mr. Keki Dadi Seth himself. And when Mr. Mariwala answered that call, a string of threats came from Mr. Keki Dadi Seth stating the possible financial repercussions that Mariwala and his family could be impacted with if Marico was not sold to Hindustan Unilever. And at the end of that threat call that lasted for almost 5 minutes, the conclusive statement from Mr. Keki Dadi Seth was, "If you will not, you will live to regret it." Now at such harsh times, any other CEO or chairman might have loosened up his motivation and they have simply agreed to sell their company to Hindustan Unilever. But Mr. Mariwala was not one of them. In fact, that was the day Mr. Mariwala decided that now this brand war would end up with Parachute becoming the most loved as well as the most sold coconut oil in the Indian market. Now, if we'll go back in the past, a similar brand war happened between Hindustan Unilever and Colgate in 1937. So in a nutshell, before 1937, Colgate had a clear-cut monopoly in the toothpaste segment of India. But when in 1937, Hindustan Unilever penetrated the market by introducing Close-Up, and after giving a tough competition to Colgate, both in terms of marketing and advertisement, HUL was able to snatch a significant share from Colgate in the Indian toothpaste segment. Here in the case of Marico, HUL exactly done what it had did with Colgate back then in 1937. The only difference is that Colgate, being an immensely powerful brand, was able to compete with Hindustan Unilever, and it was able to retain its brand position as well as market share in India. But how a small and growing company like Marico was able to bear the pressure as well as the dominance of the immensely powerful company like Hindustan Unilever, and how years later it got emerged as the survivor of that brand war by knocking down Hindustan Unilever. Now, in order to keep this video a bit specific, we are going to share the success story of Marico in the next video that would be posted on Saturday. So stay tuned for the part 2 of this series, the brand war between Marico and Hindustan Unilever. And if you want that this story should be reached to more and more people, make sure you are sharing this part 1 with more and more people so they can also get connected with us as we keep forward this story, this brand war between Marico and Hindustan Unilever. So stay tuned until Saturday, and till then, bye bye and take care.